Hello, it's John Heaton, and I'm in the garden, although it's not that warm, but anyway, hope the planes stay away as always. Today I'm going to review Bob Dylan's latest album, released a few weeks ago, and believe it or not, it's a triple. And in case you didn't know, it's cover versions of old American standards, and it's the third one in the series we've had, following these two on which I don't have on vinyl, Shadows in the Night from 2015 and Fallen Angels from 2016. And before I get into reviewing this particular latest album, I just want to give you three examples of similar albums in my vinyl collection. I think this was the first, from Ringo, 1970, Sentimental Journey, which I reviewed recently on my channel. And then a couple of years later, 1973, Harry Nilsson came out with a little touch of Smilsen in the Night, and covering similar types of old standards. And interestingly, there is some overlap between the songs covered on both those albums and the ones that Bob's covering on the two CDs and this latest one. So not a whole lot of overlap, but some overlap. And then the third one I want to show you is this 1982 album from Peter Skellern, who's an English singer, piano player, recently passed away, unfortunately, rest in peace. And this album is basically an album of standards as well, and this contains Stormy Weather and About 9:15, and I really recommend this album. It's really good. So back to this one. Well, the first question, before I review the material, I guess some of you may be wondering why Bob is doing all these covers albums, and why doesn't he get back to writing some songs? Well, you know, given he's just won the Nobel Prize of Literature, and they've got a point, and I kind of feel that myself as well, but Bob is 76 now, so have we any right to expect him to still be writing material? People were remarking that he's no longer a process singer. Well, he hasn't really been a process singer since the mid-60s, so I don't know if people expect him to suddenly become a protest singer just because of recent events in the world. I think they're being a little bit optimistic. Bob really hasn't written many political songs since the early mid-60s. A few exceptions, like a couple of songs on infidels and stuff. But it was really Times They Are Changing from '64, which is his last really political album. So I think for a 76-year-old, a more appropriate way to see out his retirement is to go back in time and cover these old chestnuts, and many of them are just that. And I'm honest enough to admit that I don't really know these songs, any of them, from the original versions. I haven't gone back and discovered Frank Sinatra or Hoagy Carmichael or any of the originals, really. And the same goes for any of the other albums I showed you. The way I've discovered these albums is when an artist that I like covers them, and maybe a little bit indirect way to get to the songs, but I think it's valid still, because you get to discover this wealth of material which existed. You know, people say, you know, that music started in the 60s, but, you know, apart from rock and roll having started in the 50s, there were all these great songs written in the, you know, the first half of the 20th century, which tend to get overlooked somewhat. So that's another reason why Bob might be doing this, to reclaim these songs as great songs. And I really enjoy this. I think I enjoyed it more than the previous two albums, because it really, I thought, bloody hell, I better take Bob seriously here. He's released a triple album. The first time any major artist that I can think of, certainly in my collection, has released a triple album for years and years. I mean, I only have two triple albums in my collection, All Things Must Pass and Wings Over America, and I was just trying to think of other artists who've done that, and I could only come up with The Clash, Sandinista, which I think was a triple. but it's pretty rare. So I thought, well, okay, Bob, I'm going to check this one out and I'm going to play it. I had it in my car for the whole of last week, and I played it on vinyl quite a few times, and really nice packaging. I think you'll agree. There is a slightly cheaper version of this on vinyl with just the standard packaging, but this has the old style labels, Columbia labels, and nice picture of Bob there, and the sleeve notes written by Tom Piazza, and the band is more or less Bob's touring band. Bob on vocals, not playing guitar on this album. Tony Garnier has been his bass player for years, Charlie Sexton on guitar, Don Heron on steel guitar, Dean Parks also plays guitar on this album, and George Rekelly on drums. And they get a really nice groove. I'll just take one of the albums out to show you. It's a really nice 180 gram heavyweight vinyl on this old style Columbia label, and nice job on the packaging. I really couldn't resist going for this kind of deluxe set. It was only about £6 more than the other vinyl edition, and I think it's worth paying £6 for all this nice deluxe packaging. So the album is mainly ballads, but there's some up tempo numbers, and I'm just going to go through the few of those. Like I guess I'll have to change my plans. Trade winds, bragging, imagination, the best is yet to come, day in, day out. Those are all what I would call more upbeat songs, and they really balance the slower material nicely. I think Bragging is probably my favourite song on the whole album. I think it's hilarious, got a hilarious lyric, and unfortunately I haven't researched who wrote every track. I'm sure some of you might know, but suffice to say that virtually every track on this album is memorable as a song, and lyrically as well. It's not only literally comes from another age, but it feels like it comes from another age, an age of less sophistication and just more evocative lyrics, I think, in general, as love songs go anyway. So those upbeat songs are great. Then the ballads are very affecting, and as I said, very emotional and very evocative. September of My Years is an absolute tearjerker. Once Upon a Time, beautifully sung. Bob's vocals on this album are first rate. If you listen to his vocals on Tempest, his last album of original material, which is 5 years ago now, he was croaking quite a lot, and I'm not sure if he's just affecting that croak, because when it comes to singing these old standards, his voice is somehow takes on a warmth and quality which was not that apparent on Tempest. So I'm not saying it's better, but it's I think you might be surprised if you check it out. Stormy Weather is on here, which was covered by Jeff Lynne on Armchair Theatre, and also by Peter Skellern on String of Pearls, the album I just showed you. Nice version on here. This Nearly Was Mine is on here as well on the second disc, and this instrumental version of that was covered by Lindsey Buckingham on Out of the Cradle in 1992, I think it was. As Time Goes By, possibly one of the most famous songs of all time, and was covered by Nielsen on the album I showed you, and delivered very nicely by Bob, very nicely sung. I just want to give you a couple of examples of the lyrics of what I'm talking about. So one song is called These Foolish Things, which is another favourite of mine on here. A cigarette that bears a lipstick's traces, an airline ticket to romantic places, and still my heart has wings. These foolish things remind me of you. A tinkling piano in the next apartment, those stumbling words that told you what my heart meant. A fairground's painted swings. These foolish things remind me of you. And then the last verse, the winds of March that makes my heart a dancer. A telephone rings, but who's to answer? Oh, how the ghost of you clings. These foolish things remind me of you. I just think that's brilliant. I'm going to wait for the plane. And These Foolish Things also has a very nice melody as well, and it's gorgeously sung by Bob. And the other one I wanted to point out is a song called There's a Flaw in My Flu, which was, I think, sung by Frank Sinatra, among others. And apart from the fact that I had to look up the word flu because I didn't know what it meant, I knew it was something to do with a fireplace from the song lyrics, but I had to look it up. It's actually the ventilation pipe in the chimney, the thing which controls the air coming in and out. And I suppose they could have called it a flaw in my chimney, but it wouldn't have sounded so good. So I used to sit by my fireplace and dream about you, but now that won't do. There's a flaw in my flu. Your lovely face in my fireplace was all that I saw, but now it won't draw. My flu has a flaw. From every beautiful ember a memory arose. Now I try to remember, and smoke gets in my nose. It's not as sweet as with the unit heat to dream about you. So darling, adieu. There's a flaw in my flu. I think that reference to unit heat is the replacement of the good old-fashioned log fire by the electric fire, which was operated by a machine where you put money in and it counts in units. I think that's what it's a reference to. I can't think what else it is. So basically, you know, it's more left to the imagination if you're looking into a fireplace and the flames and you can see the face of your loved one in there than if you're just staring at a electric heater. I think maybe that's the point that the author was making. But anyway, it's a gorgeous track, and just another example. By the way, Sentimental Journey is also covered on here at a slower pace than the version Ringo did. Very nicely sung. And Stardust, also on the Sentimental Journey album, covered by millions of people. There's a Willie Nelson album called Stardust I've been reading about, which I want to check out, and it's a timeless song and delivered very nicely by Bob on here. So if you think you might enjoy this album, I mean, obviously if you want to stick to the original Bob, then maybe don't investigate. But if you think from what I've said you might enjoy it, I would recommend it if you like this kind of genre of music. Maybe it's not to everyone's taste. It's a little bit slow and not too much up tempo. Certainly no electric guitar or anything to speak of on here, or nothing heavy, remotely heavy. But you know, I think it's an appropriate thing for Bob to be doing, as I said, at his age, and I welcomed it, and I'm really enjoying it. Thank you for watching. See you next time.